Hello everyone, Boy America. This video clip is kind of multifaceted. It's kind of a response to my response to the Reverend Jeremiah Wright Jr. And it's also touching on a few keynotes about slavery and injustice and racism, etc. It's also partially in response to a couple of comments I've received. And it's also a little bit of clarification. So let me try to run through some of this stuff and try not to get lost. First off, Reverend Jeremiah Wright Jr., you are truly an evil man. Truly an evil man. Instead of emphasizing and nurturing the accomplishments of those of your own culture who have made great sacrifices and gone through great painstaking endeavors in order to achieve their successes, you've belittled them and downplayed them and discriminated against them, and you have not given any praise to the accomplishments and the gaps that have been bridged in the everyday society. You base everything off of a government that is out of touch with its people, and it's a government built of many different nationalities, whites, blacks, Orientals, Hispanics, etc., etc. And not all of them are bad. There's many good politicians. Unfortunately, a lot of they are outnumbered by the bad ones. And we are not a nation of KKK, and we are not a government of Uncle Toms. In fact, it was only a handful of individuals who even had slaves in the days of slavery. The common man didn't have slaves. So when slavery was abolished, a lot of those plantation owners transferred their roots into politics, and thus the injustice and the discrimination continued, although the slavery ended. The March of 1963, where the blacks marched up to D.C., they were accompanied, as the blacks accompanied the whites in every endeavor they've made. The whites accompanied the blacks to D.C. And in our struggle to elevate and to ascend in an entire group of our society to the equalities that the rest of the whole of society was enjoying, inadvertently what had happened in 1963 is that the slave masters who transferred from their plantations to D.C. descended the white population, the common man, the Orientals, and whoever else was in the country at the time, and those who have came here since then, have been descended into the discrimination and the injustice. So you're not down here alone. You see, I was an orphan. I grew up in orphanages. My rearing was farmed out to various different states, homes, institutions, etc. So when I say my brothers and sisters are of all nationalities, I mean that literally. I mean that wholeheartedly, 100%. I have brothers and sisters of just about every ethnic group there is. So I know what discrimination and racism and injustice is. See, I was discriminated against, and the title was orphan. Your title was black. But the treatment was the same. Now, we're in a country where we've all been descended. But you don't emphasize or work on extending the whole of society up into the realms of justice and equality. You fan the flames of old, and you belittle, and you tear down, and you soil on the accomplishments and the achievements and the gaps that have been bridged, and you spew nothing but hatred and racism out of your mouth. You are led by haters such as Louis Farrakhan. You are followed by individuals such as Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey. And if Barack Obama can make the people believe that he sat in your congregation for 20 years listening to the hatred and the racism spewed out of your mouth, and thinks that in a few minutes he can distance himself from you, he's got a new thought coming. Because the fact of the matter is, although he is being hailed as somebody who stood up and said, oh, I'm not going to disown you when you did something wrong, there's a whole other side to that coin. You see, if I was related to a family member, my own blood family member, and over the years he spewed so much hatred, and I don't care how much good he did, if his underlying core, his heart, was so contaminated with hatred and racism, I would have spent those same years that I listened to it trying my best to encourage him and to pull him out of it, to encourage him to see beyond the hatred. And if I failed at those attempts, it would have never taken me 20 years to have disowned him. And believe me, if any of my family members were to be so racist and so full of hatred, you can bet your ass I would disown them. I would distance myself as far from them as I possibly could. But see, he didn't do that. Instead, he did something a little different and unique. He said he's not going to disown you. You're like family to him. Well, you know what? You're more than like family to him. You're his leader. As I said before, he's a soldier. And so is Oprah Winfrey. And Louis Farrakhan is your leader. The whole group of you need to be run off of all of humanity's soils. You should be stricken to a land barren of anything that could be contaminated by your poison. In the video comments, there was comments made that, oh yeah, the government is full of a bunch of poor black men, and the country is full and run by a bunch of poor black men. Let me tell you something. The government is comprised of many nationalities. And yes, there are some up there in D.C. and in the various states throughout this great country that are racist. And at the moment, because we spend so much time fanning the flames of old, or trying to quill and douse the flames of old, they're continuing to get away with their injustice that they're heaping down on all of us. Not just the blacks, but all Americans have been descended into this injustice and discrimination. So, Mr. Jeremiah, until you can spend a lifetime atoning your hatred, which time is not on your side, there's not enough time for you to do so. Just like those who enslaved individuals, time was not on their side. They didn't have enough time left in life to atone the atrocities that they had done. It was only in their death that their atrocities ended. And so befalls on you. There's not enough time for you to atone the damages that you continue perpetrating on the entire society and great nation of America. So it is only in your death that your damage will stop. And I hope Father Time moves swiftly in your case, as well as your soldiers and your leader. Because this world has no room or need for racist, hating individuals as yourself. This country is full of a lot of good-hearted people, and our government is run by many of good-hearted politicians. Unfortunately, it's dominated by a handful of bad ones, and we're working on that. That's why I'm in front of this camera. And it's not just the black man who is enduring these injustices. And it's not the white man who is running this country. It's only a handful. It's less than 10% of the population who control 90% of the wealth that the rest of the 90% of us have to squabble over. So until you can start spewing something positive out of your mouth, Mr. Jeremiah Wright, Jr., why don't you leave our borders and do us all a favor? And you, Barack Obama, why don't you get out of politics and leave our borders? And you, Oprah Winfrey, why don't you get out of the celebrity status and get out of our country? This is Boy America, and I'll talk to you again soon.